Hello, friend, and welcome to Borgcast 15.10, the Picard finale.
Yeah.
With Anne-Marie and...
Peter, hello. Yes, in the midst of the craziness, we finish off this series of Picard. I hope you're well and safe and weirdness, but podcasts are ideal for coping with this sort of thing, I can't help feeling.
Yeah.
We have just a tiny wee bit.
Previously on Star Trek Picard.
With our good friend Weir Hedgehog on Twitter, floated the idea, which has not turned out to be the case, that the Soong of the new series, his son, might be Lore, but he's not Lore. So
No.
It's okay. He is fully human. That's why he was worried about, he wanted to put himself in the, what we now find out is called the Golem, because he knew then he'd be safe from the creatures that were coming to wipe out anything that wasn't a synthetic. But there we are. Et in Incardium Latin, Umpty Numpty Part 2. Yes.
To say you have no choice is a failure of imagination. Please, don't let the Romulans turn you into the monsters they fear. Stop them, Sochi. Stop building that beacon. Shut it down now. The beings you are attempting to summon may well be your salvation, but they will be our annihilation.
We open without a flashback for the first time this series.
Yeah.
Wow. We see the Borg cube, which is now in water, which I'm sure, I can't remember seeing it in water last time.
No.
But of course now it seems even more Star Wars than before.
Yeah.
Narek sneaks in to the accompaniment of some nice spooky music. Rizzo takes him from behind, not like that thankfully, and then hugs him. They have a weird relationship.
They do, it's not nice.
And there's scenes between them, like there's something going on between the surface beyond the not niceness, but it's like there's stuff about their family background and him being the failure or something. But yeah, it all seems a bit too little, too late, really, to be honest, considering what happens to her. But there we are. There's a lovely shot of Picard getting an android butterfly to land on his hand, which is really sweet.
Yeah.
Then Rios uses the imagination tool, which is what we're calling it, which is, let's face it, is pretty much magic tech, as it turns out. I mean, you could argue it's some sort of replicator technology to an extent, but also it's got telepathic abilities to pick up on what you're imagining.
Yes.
Yeah. Then they have to deal with Narek throwing stones at their ship.
Oh, that's so funny.
There's some great face acting from Alison Pill again, as Agnes contemplates how to help Picard. And then nicks Saga's eye, which is you don't see it, but it's okay.
You hear it, though. It's quite grim.
You'll have to excuse the dog in the background. Quite know what's got into her. Probably arguing with the cat.
Chewie is just looking at her like, what the hell are you doing? Hello, Fizz. Come on. There we are. You
come and join us and shut up. Narek tells Raffi, Rios and Elnor about the Romulan concept of Armageddon. And it's all very dramatically told by Harry Treadaway. You get the feeling he's having fun doing this. Yeah. Picking the meat out of his teeth with a bone and stuff.
Yeah, it's all very graphic, isn't it?
We get an excellent shot of O's flagship and a much better look of her in her uniform.
She's a general now.
Yes, weird. The one crew member that we see, which is weird as well. She's got a massive bridge and it's her and one of a bloke. What? And he refers to her as general, having referred to her as Commodore last week. Make your mind up. Oh, well. Raffi, Rios and Elnor bring Narek in to Simpville as a prisoner, and that's intercut with them working out their plan, including a bomb in a football.
Yeah.
Wow. And of course this is a return to the golden rule, because sure enough the plan doesn't work because it's been explained. Agnes busts Picard out using Saga's eye.
Oh, that's gross. I mean, I get why she does it, but
Turns out he's been watching Rios learn how to fly La Serena, and they take off to stop the 200-odd Romulan ships all on their own. Good luck, guys.
Yeah.
Soong has learned that Sutra was the one who killed Saga and turns her off.
I like that.
Rizzo is about to shoot La Serena down using the Borg cube's weapons, but Seven arrives for a cool fight, which accumulates in Seven kicking her butt down a cavernous drop, which is something of a cliche. Bad guys always die through big drops, but it's very satisfying nonetheless.
I did clap.
The Romulans arrive and O pretty much says,
"Wipe them out. All of them."
Well, except she actually says that she wants to initiate planetary sterilisation pattern 5, and I'm thinking, what the fuck do 1 to 4 do?
I don't know. Perhaps they trace different patterns on the surface of the planet.
Oh, it's a bit like a spirograph.
Maybe, yes.
Romulan spirograph.
Woo. It's great seeing the ships arrive from the planet's surface, and then, of course, you get the Orchids being launched, which has still something to behold. Agnes references the Picard manoeuvre, which is nice, and they recreate it in spades using the magic tool of magic. And then Picard has another of his turns. Oh dear. Soji opens the portal just as the cavalry arrives in the form of a fleet led by Riker.
Yay.
On the USS Zheng-He, I think you pronounce it as, but I'm probably murdering it because, hey, he's named after a 15th century Chinese admiral.
Oh, okay.
Its bridge is a redress of the Discovery. The real giveaways, to be honest, is the captain's chair I recognise straight away, but the whole of the rest of the bridge is the Discovery Bridge as well. And apparently this was filmed whilst Frakes was directing an episode of Discovery's third season.
Okay.
Disappointingly, all the ships appear to be the same modified Sovereign class type design, which is unusual for a Federation. You think of Deep Space Nine, there's always at least a dozen different types of ship, but no, it's all copy and paste for this, I'm afraid. I guess budget limitations won out, or possibly time limitations. Riker is sitting in his usual angled pose, which is a nice touch. He makes reference to the Treaty of Algernon. Hey, continuity. And we get what Sprog 2 referred to as green versus blue. The colour coding of the two fleets, very helpful for identification here, yes. Picard tells Soji he believes in her and persuades her to close the portal, just as Matrix-style robo-eels are emerging.
Robo-millipedes or something, weren't they?
The Romulans naff off. Riker has a nice line about not wanting to sit around making pizza whilst Picard had all the fun. And gets an adieu from his former captain. Finally a bit of French that isn't outrageous. Soji beams Agnes and a dying Picard down to Simpville, and he carks it surrounded by his team with a nice goodbye to Elnor. Seven is drinking some revolting-looking slimy
and she actually
booze.
says it's revolting because it's what passes for alcohol and it's not good.
No, it doesn't look it, does it? She says she failed because she didn't stop herself from killing Rizzo. So I guess that's sort of building in her character arc for the second series, I guess. We follow a butterfly to Raffi, giving Elnor hugs, which is a nice bit of direction. And there's a nice connection with her missing her son too, as well. He's kind of got a new adopted son for her. Picard wakes up in Silicon Heaven, because where do all the toasters go? Which turns out to be a weird room with all the furniture and walls sprayed grey. Wow. And, what's it, Ganesha statues and stuff as well. Data is in his first contact uniform, but not the original one, I don't think. It looks rather different. They've obviously recreated it for this. And he's got much better de-aging CG this time. And they have a chat, basically. Okay, the events of Nemesis are discussed, including mentioning B4. Boo! We're Hedgehog on Twitter wonders if this makes Nemesis more watchable, but I'm not convinced, personally. But there you go. Data wants the download of his consciousness to be switched off so he can properly die, which is interesting. Okay.
Very good place.
Yes. As Amory predicted last week, Picard wakes up in Soong's android body. The golem. Aha, you saw it, you called it.
I did.
We're told this has no superpowers, though, and even has an expiry date. So he too can naturally die at some point.
I like the fact that he goes, I wouldn't have minded an extra 10 years.
That's funny, Or perhaps a bigger dick. Anyway. Well, you would, wouldn't you? They go on to switch off Data to the accompaniment of Soji actor Isa Brions, or however you pronounce her name, singing Sunshine. Well, she had a career in music anyway before this, so I suppose that makes some sense.
Don't you mean Blue Sky?
Is it Blue Sky, Sunshine? Whatever. Yes, it is Blue Sky, because they sort of fade out to blue stars, don't they? So that makes more sense, doesn't it? Andy suggested we play out to it, but I'm afraid I find it far too saccharine. It's OTT. But it does make for a better goodbye to Data than B4 humming it, though, so okay. We see Picard's amazing friends on La Serena, including Seven and Raffi playing Calto, which is another Voyager reference. They also hold hands, so that's potentially setting up a nice romance for Season 2. Picard gets to say engage once more to a bit of Alexander Courage playing in the background, and they set off to, well, who knows where to do who knows what, because they haven't really given a mission statement for Season 2 at the end of this season, have they? They just get out there. Right, okay, fine. We look forward to finding out, basically, because that was a cracking scene. I mean, obviously, lots of, not quite Deus Ex Machina, because they did build in, Chekhov's golem, and the magic tool of magic was at least referenced last week. So you could argue those are bit of a feeble way of doing it, but they're just parts in a bigger jigsaw, aren't they? And ultimately, the important bit really is Picard persuading Soji to turn the dimension gate thing off. That's kind of the heart of it all, and getting her to make the right decision through his own example. That's quite sweet and very Picard-like, isn't it? So
it is. I mean, our daughter did say that it felt a complete cop-out to have Picard come back after all those emotional death scenes.
Yeah, maybe it would have done had we not already guessed what was going to happen, to be honest. I think, because she hadn't seen that coming, but
no.
I only knew it was coming because you floated the idea last week, so it's like, oh yeah, we know this isn't it. And anyway, we knew it wasn't the end anyway because season 2, but, you know, they kind of needed to show the characters being upset at the loss of Picard, didn't you? And I don't think they overplayed it too much. It wasn't a massive... Arguably the scene with Data in Silicon Heaven maybe was a bit long, but I'm sure... fans of Data would have loved that scene, basically, and it does give the character a better send-off than Nemesis did. Yeah,
and I think that's good, that he gets a proper goodbye.
And a final goodbye as well.
Yeah, proper and final goodbye as a character. I think that's good.
And the bit with when Picard sort of sat next to him in his Next Generation uniform, and then it all goes like the end credits with a bit... I'm not quite sure why they did that, but anyway, presumably representing Picard appearing to him to say goodbye for a final time, but he's already said goodbye, so I don't quite know why that bit was necessary, but anyway.
Or maybe it's all part because it's part of the quantum whatever it's
quantum, baby.
Quantum Silicon Heaven.
Maybe it's sort of because Data know that Picard cares for him, that's how he's deliberately imagining saying goodbye.
Maybe.
I mean, I don't know, as I said, it makes no fucking sense, does it, in the end?
Not really, no, but you know, okay, we'll give him a bit of latitude on this front for just the fact that he was sentient, so...
It's all a bit weird, but, you know, at the end of the day, in terms of continuity with Star Trek, my benchmark for weird really is Star Trek 3. And is any of this more weird than Star Trek 3? No.
Exactly. Yeah. And, to say, it leaves you excited, wanting more adventures of this crew. So that's mission complete then, isn't it? You know, success. Excellent. Well, that's what we thought. What did other people think? Well, we've heard from Doreen. When Soong said to the evil twin stroke triplet, "It turns out you're no better than we are," I turned to Anthony and said, "We made them, how could they be?" Seven had some brilliant moves and lines in this one. Ships and more ships, brilliant. Yes. Anthony and I's brains were in the gutter when Picard and Data were chatting. Okay. It's unusual for us for ours not to be.
Oh.
Thank you, Doreen.
Thank you.
We has heard from Martin.
Hello there, Peter and Emery. It's Martin here with some thoughts on the final episode of Picard, Latin, Part 2. Just a quick note before we do. I know you shouldn't hold people's past credits against them at all, but every time I see the name Akiva Goldsman flash up on the screen, I instantly think of one film, and that film is Batman and Robin. You know, the dude's written so much, he's done so much in the genre. I think he's even won an Oscar for A Beautiful Mind, but Batman and Robin, that's all that comes into my mind. Okay, anyway, on to Picard, episode 10 of the present season. Again, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a nice conclusion to the series as a whole. Although there was some things I just didn't, I just thought were a bit off. I mean, we had the kind of the magical imagination device that helps us out of a few jams, didn't it? And if I can be frank with you, I think the death of Data was pointless. We get a second death of Data, and I think it was pointless. Just done to tug at the heartstrings of fans out there. I don't see the point of it. We seem to spend more time on the death of Data than we actually do of the death of the main man himself, Captain Picard. And yeah, I know. I think I mentioned this in my earlier feedback. And somebody else mentioned it on the feedback the other week, that what if Picard becomes the Golem? And that's been borne out because Captain Picard is now synthetic. Now, don't get me wrong, I am looking forward to seeing more adventures with this crew. I've really enjoyed the past series. I think they're a good crew. Looking forward to it. But yeah, like a few people have been saying out there, I think I would have been happy for this to be a limited series and for Picard to die at the end of it. Just one last hurrah for the old man. Because I don't think it leaves any further... What reason is there for him to go on? I mean, there's no dangling plot threads. There's nothing that I can think of, certainly, that there's nothing to go on to. Or no, right, I've got to follow the end of this. I've got to go to the end of this thing. It just doesn't seem to me that there's anything left to investigate. But again, credit to Patrick Stewart, and I know Anne-Marie's mentioned some of this before. I think in those last scenes, he was definitely acting a bit younger. He definitely had a bit more of a spring in his step. And I think it's nice to say, like, well, you won't have any superhuman abilities. Your lifespan, you're not immortal. Your lifespan is limited. So in all intents and purposes, he's still Picard. I mean, I'm sure we'll have some interesting ideas exploring that and what that means in the next series. But I mean, that's kind of my thoughts on it for a bit now. I kind of wish we'd left it at 1 and let the old man pass away as a last hurrah. Riker also appeared, as foretold in the credits once more, which would have been a shame. Which was a shame, because it would have been nice to have seen him pop up on screen, and for it to be a total surprise. Although Handley, dropped into the Penthe, was the fact that he's still in the reserve. So obviously he came to help. And it's always nice to see him again. I can't think of anything much more I want to say about this one. But as I say, I'm fairly satisfied with how it ended and where we are. And again, with the series as a whole, I think that the crew have gelled rather well. I've particularly liked all the various characters. Captain Rios has been quite good. All the holograms have been quite fun, although the accents have been a bit off at the time. I've mentioned Agnes Girardi quite a lot. I've really enjoyed her character as the nominal person who doesn't really understand space and who's never been into space before. So I think she brings that kind of breath of freshness to it. I don't think 7 of 9 got not much to do in this, apart from just a little fight with Rizzo and just to chuck her down in a deep dark hole like Emperor Palpatine. But will she come back? I'm fully expecting that she will, because we've not seen her body, but at least Hughes had some justice. Right. Anyway, looking forward to series 2, and I'll interesting to see what you think of this one. Okay, thank you. Cheers. Bye.
Thank you.
Yes, it was me who called it that Picard was going to go into the Golem.
Yes.
You're right that they lingered for a very long time on Data's death unnecessarily, but he did need a better send-off than Nemesis.
Yeah. I mean, even though me as not a massive Data fan, I'm happier with that as an ending for the character than what we got in Nemesis. Yeah. Because it didn't involve B4 sitting there as a big backup for starters. Yeah. So this was a proper final ending.
Yeah.
But
bit lengthy,
arguably, yes. And you can see where he's coming from. This isn't the Data show.
No.
This is the Picard show. But I could live with it anyway.
Yeah. In terms of there was nothing for Picard to go on to, my understanding is they were going to do 3 seasons, and each season was going to be self-contained. So, in other words, we've done the season 1 story. Yeah,
but I think his point is that Picard's kind of sort of been redeemed now as a character, having started out in a bad place. He's now ended up back as his old heroic, championing the lost type position.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have an arc now to follow. Although interestingly, 7 definitely does.
Yeah.
So you can see why they included her on the ship, even if it seems a bit harsh on the XPs. So it may be that the next season isn't quite so much, despite the name, focusing on Picard's arc as it is maybe 7's. I don't know, but we shall see. I mean, there's just no clue at all what we're going to get next, is there? So, and I didn't think we really needed. Before this series started, I was saying, we don't need another series about Picard. Surely, we've had enough about that one man. Whereas this has actually proved, you can do something interesting with the character still. So heaven knows where it'll end up next.
I do think, though, that it would have been better if they know they're only going to do 3 seasons to have him die, just as Andy said as well, at the end of season 3, rather than having die and become a golem now.
Yeah, but they can still kill him off because he's still got a finite life. It's just he hasn't got that particular disease, which they couldn't carry on for another 2 seasons and getting more and more decrepit, could they? So it's an interesting time with what we'll be covering next in Battlestar Galactica, but more of that later. Right, we've also heard from...
The Llama God!
Llamagat's lag, Scottate, Fika, Tree, Fixie Shear. It was fun. Let's do it again. Well, so Picard ends in, not with a bang, but with a bit of a resigned sigh, really. Honestly, I wasn't actually expecting it to go out with a whole load of fireworks, and the lack of a starship battle in this episode really wasn't that much of an issue, because that's not really Star Trek, or at least Star Trek Next Generation's thing, was it? So that was fitting at least. But no, obviously the controversial thing I have issues with here is, of course, Picard's death, or the lack thereof. Yes, it was a very tragic, very moving moment when he finally died, and it seemed like a brave moment, but I didn't for a second allow myself to become emotional, or even believe that he died, because this is Star Trek, and oh god, they only gave him a couple of minutes and then he's back again, which does lead you to wonder what was the actual point. Now, of course, it did occur to me that maybe they wrote that scene and maybe there's an alternate ending somewhere where they would have used if they hadn't been renewed for a second series, and that would have actually been the end of Picard. But the fact that we've seen this whole, oh, they're dead, everyone mourn, oh no, they're not, we've seen that played out in Discovery way too many times already that it's starting to get a little bit tired now, and I felt a bit cheated, and honestly, they could have done a series 2 and 3, or as many series as they wanted if people would carry on with Picard's memory. But to have him die and then come back straight away exactly as he was, I mean, Christ, this is the moment where you could have got Tom Hardy in to play a younger, regenerated Picard. If they'd rejuvenated his body, I mean, that would have been fantastic. I'd have loved to see Tom Hardy here doing another silly voice, but yeah, well, I guess it wasn't to be. I suppose I'm in the minority there anyway with my love for Nemesis, but never mind. Definitely feeling a bit shortchanged by that, and it's a very dodgy decision, especially because it also really brings up the question, why the hell didn't they give Data a body? Yes, his consciousness is sitting there in an incredibly complex quantum simulation, so why didn't they ever download it to an actual body? Maybe there's not enough of his consciousness there. They could have transferred it properly to the new engrams or something, but it seemed to be functioning pretty well from what I could tell in the simulation, so why didn't Data ever get a body? Was it because Soong-Sum was actually jealous of his brother and didn't want to build him a body, or was... Yeah, I don't know, it just opens up way too many questions, and I don't like it, and yeah, it's really unfortunate, because this could have been a great ending, but instead it just becomes cheap and manipulative, and it's a bit disappointing and flat, unfortunately. Yeah, sure, the way the whole story was brought to a resolution was very Star Trek, with Picard giving a stirring speech. That's pretty much what I expected to happen. It was all a bit nonsensical, though, given what we'd ramped up to and then came back down again. It just felt a bit, again, a little bit contrived, unfortunately, because we kind of just knew it was going to end with a speech, and there wasn't anything really that momentous that happened in it. I mean, if Picard actually had sacrificed his life as part of it, and if the two opposing fleets had been witness to it, then yeah, that would have given it some real depth and weight, but no, they decided to go with a second series of Picard instead, so we were denied that as well. So yeah, ultimately a bit disappointing. And yeah, I know I said wasn't disappointed that we didn't see ships firing at each other. I mean, a little bit maybe, because there was an awful lot of starships there. I imagine you'll be wearing out the tape going back and forth there, looking at the different classes of starship. A lot of them looking fairly ugly, kind of similar designs to the Enterprise F from the Star Trek Online game, and I'm not really a big fan. Still, it's going to be a boon to Eagle Moss, though. I mean, they're going to put loads of issues with those little models that are overpriced, aren't they? So yeah, wait for them. And it was really nice to see Riker back in the captain's chair, and he looked really comfortable there as well. I wouldn't have minded a second series focusing on him getting back into space somehow, or taking Picard's memory to the stars, or something, I don't know. So yeah, again, it was nice they had the standoff, but ultimately it came to nothing, so yeah, at least we got to see some pretty starships, at least there's that. So yeah, unfortunately, a bit of a damp squib of a finale. They were really building up to a big speech, a big momentous decision. They should have written something with a bit more fire to it, unfortunately, as opposed to leaning too heavily on cheap emotional theatrics, which ultimately proved to be hollow and pointless anyway, so yeah, sorry. Still, on the plus side though, we did get that very promising scene in the hold of La Serena with Raffi and Seven holding hands. Now that's a story I'd like to follow, so let's hope at least both of those actors come back for season 2. So yeah, not quite what I was hoping for, but then again, that's been the whole series, hasn't it? But I will give you my thoughts on the entire series as a whole in just a moment.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I don't know that Eagle Moss are going to get loads of money out of the ships, because it was mostly one
the
ship
same
just
ship.
repeated over and over and over again.
I've had another look at my screenshots, which will be on Tumblr in the due course, and they're the same damn ship. It's just copy and paste. It's really, really lazy. And interesting you found it ugly, because it's very reminiscent of the E. It's far more like the E than it is the J, so... Tom Hardy. Having just seen him last night in Venom. We don't need that image again, do we? Tom Hardy being Picard. God.
No. But it's a good point. Why didn't they give Data a body?
Yeah, I mean, the inference, wasn't it, that they needed... Because originally they were having... what's his name? The Doctor's help. Maddox. And then he ended up not being with them anymore for whatever reason that was. Can't remember what that was about now. Whereas he needed Agnes's help, Soong-Sum that is, needed Agnes's help in order to download his consciousness into the golem, and that was he then didn't end up happening because they ended up sticking Picard in there instead. So, I mean, ultimately, I would have found it all disappointing had Amory not seen it coming an episode ago. And it's like, as soon as, they start the episode and they remind you the golem's there quite pointedly, it's like, yep, okay, you can see where this is headed then. They're definitely going to be using that Chekhov's golem, aren't they? So, yeah. So, wasn't that surprising at all, really? And plus, we knew there was another 2 series of Picard, so they're not going to kill him off. So, A, they know that they're not going to kill him off, and B, they've shown you a very simple way of getting around the situation. So, yeah, it didn't bother me, but there we are. It obviously bothered everybody else. I want to find out who else was bothered by this.
Yes.
Okay, let's see. Purry.
Hello, orcs. Purry here, calling from Splendid Isolation, to talk about the final episode of Picard, Latin, Part 2. What is it? En Argo Est Domum Summum something. This was... I thought there was some definitely stuff to like in this episode. I think overall I enjoyed it. It left a bit of a sour taste. I'm going to get over the sticking point I have with the episode first, because for the most part it was good. For the most part, lots of stuff happened, and the things that happened were enjoyable. What got me was the death in the episode, namely Picard's. Data's death actually I thought worked quite well and was actually kind of a touching moment, but sadly I was kind of suspicious because they played Picard's death a bit too much. You had him die, and you had everyone mourning him. We had a good chunk of it being mourned. Now, I know one of my friends, Alan, has said that Disco did the same thing, I know, but this one just kind of caught me out. This was kind of the moment we've been building to. I felt that we've been building to it for quite a bit through the series, and you had kind of a Picard's death, and then, he's not death, he's got a robot body, which is conveniently the robot body of someone in their 90s, because someone would build that, apparently. Now, I think that's kind of what that's kind of your sticking point, is your brain always hits there, and basically, you made me feel feelings, and then, for no reason whatsoever, and I feel kind of conned by that. I think they played the death too hard, and they played it up a bit too much. The scene with Reyes and Seven, which is a lovely scene. The scene between Raffi and Elnor was also a lovely scene. And I think having those scenes and then having that, actually he's not dead, does kind of cheapen them a bit. But the thing is that there's a lot of stuff to love in this episode. I really love the pace of it, the way things kind of were falling apart. You've got the Romulan fleet attack up here. You've got the Orchids attacking. You've got stuff happening on the surface. You've got fights. You've got football. All these things. You've got the chat at the fireside. I don't know why they had a fireside chat, but you had that. You had lots of fun things happening in this episode, and I think it is just that kind of one sour note that it's like someone playing a wrong note in the middle of an otherwise good song. You kind of keep going, oh yeah, but they did play that bad note, and I think that does somewhat dull it a little, which is a shame because I actually think it was a pretty well constructed set of episodes, and it had some interesting concepts. And like I said, I like the idea of to an extent Data's been existing and wanting his mortality. I thought it was a really good cause, and I think having the Picard death before, I think it would have been better if they'd not played it like Picard's death. If they played it like he was dying and they were trying to save him, and left that with kind of a jeopardy of we might be able to save him, we might not. I just think that's where they should have gone. That said, I like the way they've got a crew built. They've got kind of this motley crew assembled on board La Sirena, and I think I'm wanting to see more adventures by them, providing they pick up his 2 housekeepers and his dog and fly around the universe doing stuff. I'd be more than happy to watch a season of that, which is good because I reckon that's going to be Picard season 2. I think we've got a crew we like, but yeah. Overall, I think overplaying the death has probably been a bit of a mistake, and I think it does put a bit of a sour note on what was otherwise a decent finale. But yeah, overall with the series, I've been quite impressed. It's different. I think this is what's catching a lot of people out. This is not like normal Trek. This is a very different feeling thing. This is not space exploration. It's kind of... I couldn't quite describe what it is, but it's not what Trek is normally, which is to be expected. This is kind of a Picard series. And so, yeah, I've been impressed with the series. I think overall I've enjoyed it. I will be interested to see, and I'm thinking I've actually been rewatching series on Discovery on E4, and I have been enjoying it, so I will be interested, should this show up in a few years' time, or should I choose to rewatch it. I'll be interested in how it sits once the the new shinies worn off it now. Like I say, Discovery holds up quite well, so I think it will. But yeah, like I say, aside from possibly a few missteps, I've kind of enjoyed this. But I do know it'll be divisive, and I know there could be some people who can't get past that thing. So yeah, but all that remains to say is do keep up the good work. I always look forward to the podcast, and just everyone, you guys, and everyone out there in podcast land, obviously stay safe in these trying times. But until the next time, and until the Galacticast, bye for now.
Bye, Sarah. Another disappointed customer. Oh.
Yes.
It's funny. Normally we're the ones who are flagging something off.
Yeah.
We're so contrary, don't we?
we do. Good point, though. Here's the body of someone in their 90s. Who would build that?
Yeah, but that's kind of the point, isn't it? They wanted it to be like he looked beforehand. Because presumably it would have looked like Soong-Son had he been downloaded into it. There's questions about how quickly they made it look like Picard, I suppose. But, they do try and explain that in the text. It's like saying, okay, well, this is... you with all your limitations, including the fact that you look old, buddy.
Yeah. Overall, I've really enjoyed this series.
Yeah, it's been great, isn't it?
The things that I were worried might happen generally didn't.
Uh-huh.
And all the things that I wanted from it were there, which was character development, which we saw, fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it wasn't all serious and dark.
Yeah, and I wanted Picard to, what he was doing or whatever, to reflect his age, rather than try and be younger than he was. And that happened in this.
Yeah, in spades, yeah.
And there was new stuff. And I like new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And also from my point of view as well, I really like the character of Raffi. And for me, there was a character that now I want to know what other stuff happens with her that I really like.
Yeah, no, all the characters, possibly with the exception of Elnor, because he got kind of written out for a bit.
He did a bit, but...
Yeah, but it was nice to see him, sort of being able to sort of say goodbye and grieve in this one. That was, and Raffi sort of taking him under her wing. So
yeah. I mean, generally, I did like all the characters as a rule, but one of my favourites is Raffi. Though the other one I liked, sort of love-hate Kai Wynn style, was Sick Rizzo.
Yes.
And I think that's probably why I'm disappointed. Although I clapped because of how it felt in the moment. In a way, I'm disappointed she's dead. In the same way as if Kai Wynn had died really early on in Deep Space Nine, it wouldn't have been as good. And it's kind of like, yeah, she was like fucked up, weird shit, evil woman, and having a fucked up, weird shit, evil woman makes for a good antagonist.
Mm-hmm. The only sort of criticisms I would level at it seemed a bit of a weak start, mainly because I wasn't quite sure where they were pitching it and where it was heading, and having those sort of 3 episodes which were like the pilot sort of thing, it took a long time for them to get into space, which is kind of key to any Star Trek series. I'm sorry, it's got to be somewhere in space, even if it's just hanging out on a space station, whereas it was very Earth based for the most part to begin with. The music wasn't great to start with, but got much better as the series went on, and I've been appreciating the music a lot more as the episodes have gone on. Other than that, the La Serena as a design hasn't grown on me, I'm afraid.
I like it.
Right, okay, it's weird, isn't it? We have very different tastes in spaceships.
We do, but I like it. I think it would have been nice to see more of the kick-ass Romulan housekeepers.
Yes, it would have been. It's a shame that everybody kind of missed them, didn't they, when they got written out? But there we go. Didn't make any sense, I guess, bringing them as well. I'm presuming they're not heading back to Earth now. I mean, I just don't. It was weird, isn't it? You'd have expected, because the way Discovery has done it, they've kind of set up as something at the end of. Well, at the end of the first season, you got the Enterprise appearing, didn't you? So it kind of set up what they were going to do next to an extent.
And the end of this one, they're in the future.
In the future. So again, they've set up what the beginning of the arc is going to be anyway for the next season. Whereas this completely open-ended, isn't it? Fair enough. I mean, there's no reason, I suppose, to give you a sense of where they're going to head next, and it gives them freedom to work on something and see what works and what didn't this time. So
yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah,
Good stuff.
I'm really glad that they made it, and I've really enjoyed it.
What did other people think?
And we've heard from Doreen, who writes, Anthony wants you to know his opinion of it is meh. I have a slightly better opinion of it. I'm quite looking forward to the next season. It's not as good as Discovery, though Discovery has had 2 seasons plus short treks to endear itself to me. Weirdly, I think the character of Agnes is the one who intrigued me the most, and the episode with the Troy Rikers was my favourite.
Yeah, I think that probably was mine as well. Yeah, because we're softies at heart, aren't we, Doreen?
I'm trying to think which is my favourite episode. I don't think it was that one.
Uh-huh. Now you've got to think which one it was. Ah.
Yeah. Bugger. And we've heard from Andy, who writes a few thoughts on Picard. This was always going to be a difficult sales pitch, 18 years since Nemesis and the last time we saw Jean-Luc Picard, and the first time into the future of the 24th century after spending most of the last 2 decades with prequel and reboot shows, so expectations were always going to be high. I'll try to keep my thoughts succinct. What Picard does well, it does really well, but I think those things also undercut the rest of the show. I'm talking, of course, about the interactions between the TNG crew after all this time. From the first shot of Data and Jean-Luc playing cards in 10 forward, through to Riker and Troy on the Penthe, and the goddamn masterpiece of the final moments of Data listening to Blue Skies. If nothing else, that scene alone is worth the price of admission for the series. These are characters that we have 30 plus years invested in, and the legendary closeness of the TNG cast is self-evident every time they share a scene together. There's no acting required to show the warmth and love they share.
This is true.
Did you see Marina Sirtis' tweet? It's her birthday, and all of her former Next Gen crewmates Skyped her at the same time.
Oh, bless.
And she had a birthday multi-call.
Reunion.
Yeah.
That's so sweet.
I would have preferred it if they hadn't given Picard a new body. I think it would have served the show better to show him living with his Irimotic syndrome over the course of a couple of seasons, and how to come to terms with knowing the end of life is near, not in a morbid way, but to remind us that we all will die, and it isn't something to fear. Anyway, with all that said, by and large I did enjoy Picard, especially seeing Hugh and Seven back. I'd love more of that exploration of the Borg and the XBs, and just more of life at the turn of the 20th century. And I hope we see more from the cast of TNG, DS9, and yes, even Voyager. Specifically the Doctor, and maybe Tuvok. Oh, and I hope this won't become a Guardians of the Galaxy-style adventure with a motley crew. That's not what Picard is about, the person. I hope we'll see them, but the show's called Picard, so I'd be very happy if his next adventure takes him in a different direction. Anyway, that will have to do for now. I hope you're keeping safe in these interesting times. I saw someone on Twitter suggest to imagine you're on a starship, long period stuck on the ship, and the occasional away mission to the shops.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Sorry about the scrabbling noises.
Of our dog, yes, but there we go. It's been quite a feature of this podcast. Actually, I'd quite up for sort of a Guardians of the Galaxy type thing with this crew, to be honest. And I mean, we just don't know what they're planning. So,
No.
But it would seem like they're all in for the the next season. So, although I did wonder, and it only struck me today thinking back on it. So Seven just left all the remaining XBs there to fend for themselves?
Well, isn't she with them?
No, she's on the
She is,
Serena,
isn't
isn't she?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I know she wasn't with them to begin with because she was one of the Fenris Rangers, but then you kind of got the impression that she was becoming their queen and, she was all concerned for their welfare and stuff. And now she's like, bye, suckers! I'm off on an adventure with my pal Picard.
Well, unless for her it's too dangerous to be their queen.
I just only let's say, when was it we watched this? Days ago now.
Yeah.
And it's literally only just struck me. There we go. I'm glad you enjoyed it, sir. And I did. When that particular episode on New Penthe was a beautiful episode.
Yeah.
And let's listen to Llama God's thoughts on the season as a whole.
Llama God's log supplemental. And you were there, and you were there. And, right, back then with feedback for this series as a whole. But you've heard my thoughts on this, as we've been going through the series anyway, so I think we've got an idea of what I'm thinking of it. So, I will welcome back my long-suffering conjunct.
Hello.
And to give us her thoughts on the series. So, Jo.
Yes?
This was not your first Star Trek, was it?
No.
Because you also sat through Discovery with me.
Yes.
And...
I still like Discovery better.
well, that answers that question already. So I guess an obvious thing to segue straight onto is why?
I think Discovery doesn't have legacy baggage.
Well, even though there was a whole episode where they flashed back to the episode from the 60s?
Yeah, but that was one episode out of the entire series.
Is that how you kind of felt about this series? That it was...
There's a lot of legacy baggage. Oh, let's do a nostalgia episode. Let's bring back this old character, and this old character, and this old character. Okay, what about the new ones?
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, and obviously for someone like me, this was enjoyed seeing the old characters, but as a newer viewer who hadn't had any experience with them, did you actually like or connect with any of the older characters?
Not really. They're all old white men.
No, there's a couple of
with
women.
the
There was Seven.
With the exception of Seven.
And
the
Troy.
rest, she didn't have much to do. With the exception of Seven, the rest of them are all old white guys. And okay. The newer characters are a bit more interesting. I wish they'd done more with them. They have initial episodes where, they come off as interesting and then they get shafted to the background. Case in point, Elnor had a very interesting introduction episode. Really didn't do much for the rest of the series except stand around and look pretty.
And use his swords a couple of times, yeah.
And do fancy moves with the swords. But as for, do we learn anything more about him and how he feels about all of this? Not really. It's just in the background most of the time. The only other character I actually liked was Raffi.
I mean, that doesn't surprise me at all. She seems to be very close to your heart.
Yeah, she throws shade at everyone, so
yeah, fair enough.
That automatically wins her points in my book.
You didn't really care for the other characters? What about Captain Rios or Agnes?
We don't know them. They show up and they do things, but we don't really know them, so I don't care. Agnes could have died and I don't care.
And what about Picard, the title character? Did you warm to him at all?
I mean, I like Patrick Stewart in general, but yeah, this was very much let's just give him all the attention, which is fair enough. I mean, it's a pilot series, but I just felt they could have done more with the other characters. And yeah, that whole death fake out, it's like, come on, we know he's never gonna die. Go through the whole grief thing. They did this so many times with Discovery. It's like, yeah, is this the thing now? Kill someone off and then, no, surprise, he's alive.
That's a very new thing, actually, to Star Trek. I think in the past, with the exception of Spock, when characters died, they stayed dead generally.
I don't know. It's on the second series I watched.
So, the general story, did it engage you at all?
I wish it had engaged a little more than it did, because there was several times through several episodes I tuned out, did something else, came back, and they were still discussing the same thing. It's like, oh, I haven't missed much at all then.
I suppose that's fairly in keeping with the Next Generation and how it used to moral dilemma of the week
I
sort of
don't
thing.
know, maybe that appeals to legacy fans, but this for the finale, I was waiting for something to happen and nothing happened. They kind of almost had a little space battle, and then everyone just, okay, nope, things not going according to plan, we'll just go now, bye.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very Star Trek thing.
There's no sense of, I don't know, what's the word, peril? Urgency? Or something like that, that, okay, if someone's gonna die, there might be a fake out, which is where I think Discovery had a little more of that, like a bit more of they're working towards something big happening, which is why the finale was, for that, season 2 finale was quite good. I enjoyed that because stuff actually happened. It didn't just fizzle out towards the end like this one did, so, don't know.
Do you think you'll sit and watch Series 2 with me?
Possibly, I mean, nothing else for me to do.
Oh, plenty to do when it comes to that. We'll have our own little synthetic life form to look after. I'm getting a look.
Yes, you are getting a look.
It's a very real life form.
Maybe, we'll see. When is season 2 airing?
Oh, I don't think we've filmed it yet. But you are excited about Series 3 of Discovery?
Yes.
Well, that's good. You're not completely turned off from Star Trek completely just yet.
Completely turned off, just. And also Discovery has the prettier ships.
Yeah, you're just
I'm not wrong.
You're wrong.
I'm not wrong.
You're wrong.
I am not wrong.
Oh, God, right. Anyway, on that note, before we start a domestic here, that's us off. So thank you for your coverage for this season, and we will be back shortly, probably, to give our thoughts on Discovery at some point. So until then, glory to you and your cast.
Thanks, guys. Yes, we're always Borgcast, home of the good domestic.
Yes. I agree with Joe.
Yep.
The ships are prettier in Discovery.
Nope. Legacy baggage, there's a phrase.
Yeah.
And that was always going to be, with this. It would have been odd if they hadn't have had quite a bit of legacy baggage along. Because as much as that would have made things easier for people like Joe, for those of us who are expecting a few good nods to the past, it would have been really frustrating, but that was always going to be a difficult balance for them to strike, so it's interesting she felt that they didn't manage that one.
I think that the Nepenthe one was, didn't have enough going on in it other than, aren't they our friends? And Elnor was really underused.
Oh,
What
yeah.
they should have done is had a B plot with Elnor kicking ass.
I mean, she's definitely right. We barely know anything about most of these characters. They've had like one thing explored about each of them, basically, and those one things have generally been relevant to Picard's plot ultimately. So there's plenty of scope for exploring these characters more, and I think they've got great potential for exploring more. They're not dull two-dimensional characters. They're just characters that we've only really had a slightest sneak peek into. It helps, of course, that they're all well acted as well. So I'm up for watching more of their adventures, basically. So
Yeah.
I would expect, but I could be proved wrong, that season 2 will be very much more exploring their characters because, as we pointed out earlier, Picard's arc has pretty much been followed to its end unless they suddenly throw another curveball, it's kind of what they did with Discovery, wasn't it? You thought that everything was sorted for Michael, and then big curveball, but Spock and brother and which I found a bit crap, to be honest. But there you go.
Well, we shall see. And yeah, the whole sort of you're going to have a space battle except talking and now not. That's very next gen.
It is, yes. We saw far more ships than we used to see in next gen, but ultimately, yes, nary a shot was fired, really. But I kind of felt it was made up for by the Romulans blasting the flowers. That was an image that is going to stick with me for a while. So yeah, but once Starfleet turn up, it's literally just there to say, "Oi, Romulans, no!"
But again, like, some of this is probably the legacy baggage, because next gen, when you watched it, you didn't get an awful lot of character development. If you did, it was like one thing and that was their thing. Worf is a Klingon, let's do more Klingon.
I'll tell you what,
things.
Troy got more character development in that one episode of Picard than she got in the entire time of 7 seasons Next Generation.
Yeah.
I mean, she functioned far better in that episode as somebody you would expect as a counsellor and an empathetic character.
So yeah, so that comes with it. Fake out spaceship battles, absolutely next gen. The idea that you can go off and make a cup of tea and come back and they're still having the same conversation, yeah, that's next gen as well.
Yeah, so comfortable territory for some of us, perhaps not appealing to others then. But hey, great to hear from you, Joe. That's excellent.
Yes,
and we're keeping you in our thoughts as you approach the arrival of your own. Now, I'm not going to say a synthetic life form because I'm pretty sure it's real. But if it emerges and immediately transforms into a car, we'll know. We'll know.
The name of my favourite episode, by the way, is The Impossible Box.
Yeah, Impossible Box was a good one. Yeah, got it. Yeah, there we go.
You know me, I'm terrible at episode names.
Yeah, well.
So I looked it up.
Yes, and then she woke me up at 2:00 in the morning so we could record this bit. No, she didn't actually, but anyway. Well, thank you for joining us for the ride that was Picard. Yeah. We were expecting to be starting Discovery Season 3 very quickly, but it's, funnily enough, that's been put off for a while, mainly because there's one poor sod editing this in their front room in lockdown at the moment. No, literally, he tweeted the picture of him doing it. So that has delayed things somewhat, which does mean we can up our back up to previous levels of our Battlestar Galactica coverage over on our Borgcast Galactica podcast.
Yay! So you'll still be getting as much Orgs, just
not Trek.
Yeah.
So much. Although there will be our traditional Easter special on this feed relating to Picard. That's all I'm saying. Obviously, we couldn't.
Very, very drunk.
We were very drunk. Much rum was involved. So there's that to look forward to. If that's the phrase, I'm not sure.
No.
But yes, this coming Friday, which is the 3rd, we are recording our coverage of the next 2 episodes of BSG, and then it'll be just under a fortnight when we'll be doing the next one. So yes, we're hopefully keep you... clearly won't keep you sane or free from domestic arguments or anything, really. We'll just fill your lives with crap as we've been doing over the past... How many years has it been? Feels like a lifetime. But there we are. Stay safe, friends. We'll catch you next time. Cheery bye.
Bye.
All music referenced is for illustrative purposes only, and no copyright infringement is intended.
Find our website at borgcast.libsyn.com.
And we have a YouTube channel as well.
You can find the Borgcast playouts on Spotify for your listening pleasure.
Visit our Tumblr site at borgcast.tumblr.com, where you'll find images accompanying the episodes discussed in this cast.
Send emails or MP3s to borgcast@gmail.com.
Or you can contact us via Twitter on rev_org or borgcastammo. #Borgcast.
Shut it down!